So again, my name is Sarah Fabius. I'm a systems engineer at LexisNexis Risk Solutions, and I'm really excited to be able to be here today and speak a little bit about what all we've been doing with the Hpcc systems around diversity and inclusion within the community. So I wanted to start off first with a poll. So have you found ways to share the HP Systems platform with the community? And I'll give you a chance to go ahead and answer that. It should be on the bottom of your screen to go ahead and put your response in. All right. So I kind of wanted to start off just talking about what is diversity. I think a lot of times when people think about diversity and the discussions come up, everybody tends to first go straight to gender. You know, by default, that's kind of what we think. But really, diversity is so much more than that. It could be diversity of gender, age, your sexual orientation, disability, the way you think, the way you work, the way you do things, having different points of view. So diversity will be what ultimately is what's influencing and improves our community. So being able to create a truly diverse community that has diversity in all of these things is going to have a positive business impact on everything. It isn't just about diversity, though. We also have to make sure that with all these conversations around diversity that we still have a focus on being inclusive, where everyone feels accepted and everyone feels that they're included in something. So I wanted to kind of show some really interesting statistics that I found. And this was from a recent Yellow diversity study that came out. And this was showing that 83% of respondents indicate an employer's commitment to diversity is important enough to be a consideration when deciding whether to accept a job. 70% said that they would consider looking for a new job if their employer didn't demonstrate a commitment to promoting a diverse workplace. And 63% of employee respondents indicated that they'd be reluctant to accept a job from a company if no employees from underrepresented groups are involved in the interview process. So this just kind of really shows how the numbers support the fact that there is a need for diversity, there's a desire for diversity, and that it will actually determine the candidates you bring into your organization, depending on how you kind of do your interview process, what your organization looks like currently, and how diverse you are. So I also found this chart to be really interesting, and it basically is saying when asked when you would consider your ideal workplace, what types of diversity in your workplace are among the most important to you? And it's funny that you actually kind of can see what people find the most important: age, race, ethnicity, gender, personality. So it really draws attention to the fact that diversity is in all of these things is really important to those that are, you know, going out into the workplace. So obviously there's diversity in the workplace, but with HPCC systems, something we also want to look into is diversity in the open source community. And that's probably something that doesn't get, you know, we don't speak about too much, but diversity within open source community as a whole is actually incredibly lacking. There was a really interesting study that GitHub did, and they basically went and they surveyed about 5,500 open source users and developers on various projects. And what they actually found was that 95% were male, 3% were female, and 1% was non-binary. 16% belong to ethnic or national groups that are in minority, and 7% identified as LGBTQ. So as you can see, those numbers are very low, and clearly shows that there's a lot of work to be done within the open source community to really improve these numbers, and that's, you know, all across the board. So it kind of comes down to how do we improve diversity? And I think the biggest way that we can improve diversity within the open source community, within the Hpcc community, is really to be intentional. So it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to be intentional and really encourage a diverse community. We want to provide a level playing ground for everyone, and to do that, we have to do more than just saying it's there. So as a community, we need to do more to encourage, enable, and invite a more inclusive community. And one example of how you can be intentional with helping to create a more diverse community, especially around Hpcc systems, is to host and facilitate events where Hpcc systems that are specific to a diversity group. So one example of what I've personally done is a few years back, we started this program called I Rise to ECL Code Camp. And it was a 2-day ECL Code Camp for students, and all of the students were part of this I Rise to organization, which is for students who are on the spectrum. This is facilitated through one of the local universities, and it's a great organization. And we decided that this is such an underrepresented group. We wanted to give them a dedicated opportunity to come into our offices and do some coding. So we had the 2-day program, and we did 1 day that was full hands-on coding. They were using Hpcc systems. And then the second day was more of a mentorship day. And what we did was we had mock interviews. We allowed for the students to ask us anything that they wanted. We wanted to provide a day where students really felt like they were one of us, that they were part of our community, that they were also part of our organization. And the students, they loved the event, and we got really great feedback. So since that first event, we've had more involvement in the autism community. There's really become an event that we do at least this one every year. We also, in October, is Autism Awareness Month. We've been able to team up with the same organization, have students come on site to our campus and do some shadowing with employees. So it's really become a good partner of ours. So this event, was such a great success that it actually made the local news. I was trying to find if there was a way for me to actually share this, but it wasn't working really well. But you actually can find the link to the coverage. I believe it should be in the attachment section and the link section below. So you should be able to find the link to that. All right. So another event that has really become a huge success is we host an annual She is Tomorrow's Technologist. We host this event once a year, and we basically invite female students from various local high schools and colleges, and they come in and they join us for a day of empowerment and mentorship. And what we do is we have some of our female leaders from LexisNexis for Solutions. They come in, they present, and they participate in a panel for the students where they're able to ask questions. And, it's a variety of questions. It could be something personal as far as, where did you go to school? How did you know what you wanted to major in? It could be something more about how is it being a woman in the tech field? What struggles have you had to overcome? All types of questions. And it's a really good opportunity for these students to ask, our leaders, and all the leaders that participate, all of the employees who volunteer are all within technology. So they're actually able to speak with technologists who are, living out what they would like to eventually be. So it's a really good opportunity for them all to kind of get together. So again, I kind of talk about being intentional about creating that diverse community and recognizing individuals for the unique contributions that they can make to your organization, to your open source community, to your projects, whatever it is. And so I put this up, this photo up, because it really kind of hit home with me when I saw it. So there's a car wash by our house that's actually fully staffed by individuals on the spectrum. It's all the employees there have autism, and they have this sign in their lobby. So while you're waiting for them to clean your car, you can kind of read this. And I saw it, and it just really hit home for me. And it was kind of calling out what they call the autism advantage and why you should hire people with autism. And it was saying how they have an exceptional eye for detail. They follow processes and rules. They're genuinely enthusiastic to work, 5 to 10 times less turnover, immaculate safety record, powerful culture of service, the media and the word of mouth, and incredible loyal customers. So for me, it kind of shows that this is what diversity is about. By being diverse and being intentional to say, you know what, I'd really like to hire more individuals on the spectrum or hire more, unique backgrounds, you're going to start to get different benefits, right? The advantages are going to be different. So everyone has something to offer that is unique to them, and you're going to gain more the more diverse that you actually are. I recently attended a conference, and the keynote speaker brought up something that I thought was really interesting, and I kind of wanted to share today. And it was all around how the products that we're using every day, almost all of them, were not only created by men, but they were also tested on men. So basically what this means is a lot of products traditionally were created by someone and tested on someone without actually thinking about who would actually be using the product. So it was never tested for the end user and who would actually be using this. And obviously this is going to result in a lot of products being poorly developed, for a large portion of your customers. So I thought these were some really interesting bits. Obviously you can do research. There's so many more out there, but these were a few that I thought were pretty interesting that I'd call out. So there's a lot of data that shows women have, on average, smaller hands than men. But yet the equipment continues to be designed around the average male hand size. And so a lot of times I think there's this one size fits all, but the average smartphone is actually 5.5 inches. While the average man can fairly comfortably use his device one-handed, the average woman's hand is not big enough to do that, right? So it's barely bigger than the handset itself. So it's harder for women to hold a smartphone in their hand because of the size. Another one was that, a woman being involved in a car crash is 47% more likely to be seriously injured. And they're 71% more likely to be moderately injured, even when researchers control factors such as height, weight, seatbelt usage, and crash intensity. And that she's also 17% more likely to die. And it's actually because of how the car is designed and for who it was designed. For a long time, car crash test dummies were based on the average male. So they weren't designed with, women in mind. And it's resulted in a lot of problems. There's, so many more examples of products and solutions, created every day. But because the group that is creating and testing is not diverse, the solution is being created to best fit those who are the ones creating and testing and not for general use. There's so many more examples how, police body armor was not, created to fit women. I was reading stories about a woman who was trying to use her car voice activation, and it wouldn't respond to her voice. It would only respond to her husband. So it was only programmed to respond to a male voice, not a female voice. So there's a lot of little things like this. But the idea is that it puts into perspective how, without even realizing it, we may be creating communities that are not inclusive to everyone. We may be creating products that everybody can't actually use. And really it's just because the community itself is not diverse enough. Products are going to be created without thinking about all the possible users. And a great example of how having a diverse community can really create great outcomes is the Hpcc poster board contest. I was fortunate enough that I was able this past year to be a judge on that. And one of the things I noticed was that we had such a diverse group of users. And because we had diversity in cultures and age and countries, the poster boards themselves were so diverse. The way that people found different unique ways to use Hpcc systems was incredible. And it was because of the fact that everybody was diverse. So the more diverse that we actually have our community, our Hpcc community as a whole, we're going to find more diverse uses for Hpcc systems. It's just going to naturally occur that we will find more uses for them. Things that we never would have thought, oh, hey, you could use Hpcc systems for that. And you may not have thought that, but creating that diverse environment is really going to help a lot of that come up. So I really want to encourage all of you to really see what ways you can help to make our community more diverse and provide an environment that is more inclusive. Share with the community all the unique ways that you're using HPCC systems, so we can kind of hear what others are also doing. Sorry, I'm just trying to flip through here. So I guess I will end on the last poll question, which is, do you think more diverse initiatives around HPCC systems should be started? And you'll see the poll on the bottom of the presentation. And I will turn it back over to you, Trish.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your story. To me, this is so inspiring to see the impact, not only with what you are doing, but how the platform, with it being open source, is helping the community. So I did want to let everyone know that Jessica Lordy just posted a blog on our 5-question series featuring Sarah. So that is hot off the press and accessible on our website, as well as in the attachment section of this Tech Talk. So be sure to listen to her interview. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for that. All right, so it looks like we do have some questions coming in for you to review from the audience. And while you take a look at those, I will share the results from your first poll question. And you had asked, have you found ways to share the HPCC platform with the community? And 60% said yes. So this is great to hear and important to know that, hey, our community is thriving, and it's great to have, that's the beauty of it being open source. And so we welcome new ideas and new members in our community. All right, so you ready for some questions?
Sure. All
righty, here we go. All right, so how do you choose the events that we host? And there's so many groups out there. What was the story on how you got involved with this great outreach? And I know you touched on some of that in your talk.
Sure. So the iRise 2 program actually, so I was over at FAU. We were putting together baskets for their annual fundraiser that they do. And I just happened to need a phone charger, and the director who had a charger in his office, when I was walking to his office, had a sign on his door that said Girls Who Code. And I said, that's really interesting. Can you tell me more about that? And as we kind of started talking, I was like, we really need to do more. And I wanted to do more. And I was like, this is such a great opportunity. They were really trying to find ways to find individuals, technologists within the community that are working that could kind of provide some mentorship. And I thought doing something like the iRise ECL Code Camp was a really good opportunity for employees to give back and to really provide like a short mentorship. So it was kind of an accidental falling into it, but it was, it's just kind of one of those things that it just happened. With other events that we do, they're just things that I've been really passionate about. In addition to, my day job, I'm also what we call our RE Cares champion of our Boca Raton office. And that means that I'm really responsible for organizing and coordinating volunteer activities throughout our community for our employees and whatnot. And I've always been really passionate about giving back to our community, especially within STEM-related initiatives. I think growing up, I didn't have as much exposure to things that I wish I would have. I think that if I had been, involved in some of these at a younger age, I would have been more likely to, to have started my career in technology earlier. So it's just a passion of mine, and I'm lucky that I have the platform where I'm able to actually, promote that.
Great, and we're definitely lucky to have you. So I think you touched on this earlier, but a question came in if you want to expound upon it. Why is diversity and inclusion so important in the HPCC systems community?
Sure. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying, is that HPCC systems community or any open source project is going to be more valuable if it has more diverse thinkers, more diverse, contributors. You're going to think of ways that you can use HPCC systems that you never would have thought. So it just is only going to make the community stronger the more diverse that we actually are.
Yep, absolutely. And it looks like we've got one more question in here. Actually, it's a feedback too. Great job on what you are doing. And do you have other ideas in the pipeline to draw in other users into our community?
Sure. So we actually were looking into this year expanding our ECL code camp that we're doing to make it a more, like a broader audience. So it typically was a very small group of students from the iRise 2 program. So we were thinking this year we would include them, but we were also going to try to expand it to more of a general diversity and inclusion. So it could be anybody with any disability, someone from any underrepresented group that would have the opportunity to come and join in this. And we're working with a couple different nonprofits in the area to kind of facilitate this. So we're hoping that this year we're going to get, a really diverse group of individuals that can participate in the code camp this year. And I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And for those who are in the area with Sarah or work with Sarah, if you're interested in that and helping her out, I'm sure she would welcome volunteers.
Yep.
All right. All right, so thank you for answering those questions. And let's go over the results from your second poll question, which was, do you think more diverse initiatives around HPCC systems should be started? And wow, 100% said yes. So that's music to my ears. All right, so thanks for answering. And please, to those and everybody here, reach out to us, any of us on the HPC Systems team, to share your ideas with us. As she mentioned, we're all, and Lorraine mentioned earlier, we've all mentioned this, we're always in need of mentors and ambassadors. So regardless of your location, we can explore and help find an opportunity for you.